we have COVID, or right now we have a very dramatic, very, very dramatic situation in Poland. We had also bird flu, and we also have African swine flu, which devastated our family farms. And now it reached Germany, so this African swine flu is a big problem in Europe. But bird flu, which is very dangerous for human, and what I want to say, what is my claim, that you guys who are promoting meat are giving away cheap weapons to every crazy person. Now,
absolute nonsense, complete nonsense.
So, respond to that one, yeah.
Nonsense.
Well, it's just rambling. This we've got completely away from diet here.
Yeah, that is true.
Excuse me. I am speaking. We've been talking about all sorts of different viruses, none of which have anything whatsoever to do with diet. You've been rambling on in an incoherent fashion. I know English is not your first language. That's not the issue here. The logic is incoherent. What is your argument?
One day, we might be, as humanity, we might be forced to stop animal agriculture because it will be a question of human survival. For example, because of pandemic.
So I understand.
And terrorism.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Road to Recovery podcast. I am one of your hosts, Ryan, alongside Tommy Kelly, who I didn't realize you have so many people that hate you, Tommy. You should have told me about this before. You should have let me know before we started working together. I didn't want to get dragged down.
Tommy the apostate.
But anyway, today we're joined by two very, very polar opposite people, Bart Kay and Nika. Thank you for being here. We got a vegan and a carnivore.
Guys.
Here to have a little friendly debate, maybe not so friendly. I don't really know how it'll go. I'm going to try and keep it friendly because it's all about happiness. That's all I care about sometimes.
I'm probably the only person in the world. Hello, I'm probably the only person in the world who has more people who hates them than Tommy. So
probably that is what I've also discovered recently. So I know that when Tommy was talking to you, Nika, that you had some points that you wanted to bring up. So maybe we can start the discussion around some of your initial bullets, and then we can get Bart to kind of comment on that, and then we'll just kind of moderate it and keep it moving forward.
Absolutely. Keep it respectful.
Okay, may I start?
Yeah.
Hello, guys. First of all, sorry you cannot see me. Unfortunately, we had some technical issue. So I hope you understand.
We'll take the blame for that one. I'll take the blame for that one.
Some of you maybe hear me the first time, so I will remind that I'm non-English speaker, so I apologize if some vocabulary will find weird. It may happen, especially that the topics I want to raise today are not very basic, are not super easy, and sometimes I may even miss vocabulary.
Can we get maybe address? Can we get a little background about your history becoming vegan, and then we can start there, just so people kind of get where you're coming from, where you got to where you are, stuff like that.
Just to give people a little context that obviously don't know you and things, a little bit about yourself, how you obviously became vegan.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I've been vegan pretty short time, just 1.5 years, although never before I had eaten meat too often, rather occasionally, as I didn't like it. Basically, I enjoyed meat in a good restaurant. It needed to be prepared very well. I needed a good chef to provide a good meal. Otherwise, I just didn't like it. So I used to eat meat rather occasionally. So it was never an important source of my nutrients in my life. I have always loved animals. So theoretically, I should have been vegan much earlier. But in fact, I didn't believe I'm going to make any change. I thought the situation is rather hopeless and I cannot do anything. So my decision to go vegan was rather related to noticing some chance to do something. So I combine several forms of veganism, and then I hope that it gives some chance, because only avoiding meat is, in my opinion, is nothing. And who am I? I studied music, Japanese language and economy. So my life was basically around showbiz, and also I dealt with languages. And I'm Polish, yes, I'm from Poland.
Awesome. That's great.
I wanted to address your argument about isotope analysis. First of all, could you please remind all the people what elements does glucose consist of?
Glucose is carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen.
Yes, so there is no nitrogen in it, yes?
Correct, there is not.
So why are you using the nitrogen isotopic analysis to discuss the content of Paleolithic people's diet?
Well, I'm doing it because that is the accepted methodology in the science, and because what the nitrogen 14-15 isotope testing does is it establishes absolutely and irrefutably the level of protein in that individual's diet that came from an animal source as opposed to from a plant source. And so it establishes absolutely the trophic level at which an animal existed during its life. The nitrogen 14-15 testing establishes that human beings pretty much throughout their 350,000 year history on the planet have been obligate hypercarnivores, gaining upwards of 80% of their caloric energy from animal sources. And that has actually been backed up by some carbon-based testing that has been done that corroborates it. I just don't mention that because people that understand the science don't usually need that explained to them. So I hope that that explanation does now make it clear to you. The isotope testing is really not up for debate in terms of its validity in determining what it is an animal did in fact eat. It is a slam dunk.
Okay, may I respond?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so first of all, nitrogen isotopic analysis exposed what was the main source of proteins. In fact, especially Neanderthals were fed mainly by, no, their main source of proteins were animals. Yes, that was meat, which doesn't tell us anything about proportion between carbohydrates and animals. So that means even if they ate meat once a week and in other days they ate a lot of plants but rich in carbohydrates and low in proteins, it still would be the same result, because this analysis only showed what was the main source of proteins, not about food, like all the food.
Except if you'd listened to what I just said, unfortunately you seem to have missed it. I said it is also corroborated by the carbon-based testing that has also been done.
But there are also some other opinions of archaeologists who say that if about those nitrogen analyses, we cannot truly fully rely on them, because according to those analyses, people are more carnivore than lions, and also deers also appears or some herbivore, obviously 100% herbivore animals also appear more carnivore than lions. So we shouldn't make any we cannot take it too seriously. It's like one of arguments which indicate some direction, and of course there is no doubt that Neanderthals especially, they ate meat, but we cannot 100% take this argument, because there are many other archaeological research, for example analysis of dental, for example calculus, which shows microfossils of barley and many other plants, which show that indicate that even grains were widely eaten also before agriculture, yes, period, even before.
Okay, so the existence of some evidence of eating some amount of plants does not debunk the evidence which clearly shows that human beings ate primarily meat. Nobody has said human beings ate no plants at all. They did eat some plants. It seems like, depending on where they lived on the planet, the closer to the equator, the more carbohydrate and plant that was in the diet, funnily enough, considering that most of the planet was frozen for much of the time. That explains that. The fact that there is some evidence on the teeth of some of some plant eating, the fact that there are 1 or 2 coprolites that have been found with plant material in them, it seems like mostly human beings were aware of the medicinal properties of certain selected plants, and that was probably what they were used for rather than as a primary source of energy. As I say, both the nitrogen and carbon testing they corroborate each other. They are what people like to refer to as converging lines of evidence. They are good hard science. There is always going to be voices out there in the wilderness who want to try and cast shadow over whatever's out there, and that's fine. They absolutely are welcome to put those opinions forward. However, at the end of the day, what we have is some very, very convincing evidence as to what it was that historically human beings have in fact eaten. I'm not sure why you would want to try and debunk it anyway, because at the end of the day, my understanding was that your moot is that you would like to propose that human beings are supposedly best suited to be herbivorous, which is easily debunked. So
Actually, no. I have a completely different diagnosis. I think that both of you groups, both like fruitarians and carnivores, I treat for you, for me, you are the same people. And usually, fruitarians become carnivores. So, for example, let's take Tristan as an example, and many other examples we can mention. Why? Because you are the kind of people who believe there is such a thing as a perfect diet for human. But there is no such a thing, because maybe you think that we were created perfectly, and it's only a matter for us to discover what is perfect food, and then we can live forever happy, and maybe, I don't know. But the problem is that the primal problem of human is breathing. We are dying because of oxygen, so first of all, you should maybe consider reducing breath and do something about it, because there is no such a thing as perfect conditions for human to live. Like you will discover perfect diet and all problems are gone. That's not true. So
can I just say something, Veganica? Like, yes. Are you proposing that people actually be vegan? Because if you aren't, you're saying that there isn't an optimal diet. So if that were the case, why would somebody have to have the premises that they should go vegan? So I think if you could maybe make that kind of clear, what you're actually proposing there, because it's kind of contradicting.
No, I'm proposing that we shouldn't desperately search for a perfect diet, because there is no such a thing, and we should rather react to reality. We should, because you guys, fruitarians and carnivores, you focus too much on Paleolithic people, because fruitarians are also right. Because if you go farther back in the history, okay, our ancestors were eating primarily fruit, so they are also right. Both you are right, but so what? We also need to consider.
Understand your. Okay, thank you. Understand your point very well. Okay, a couple of things I would say in response to it. Number one, fruitarians and carnivores are not the same. Okay, let's make that very, very clear. No, we're not. Okay.
Mentally, you're the same.
Hang on. Secondly, mentally, we are definitely not the same either. No, that's not correct. Is there an ideal diet for human beings? Yes. Is it demonstrable? Yes, if you apply some basic common sense and some basic actual science, some basic actual reality, the thing you were referring to before, the very thing you were referring to in the same breath, for want of a better term, that you were saying that the problem with us, the reason we are dying is because we are breathing.
And yes, because of oxygen. Yes, oxygen is our huge problem.
So we are dying because of oxygen, and the solution is we should breathe less, is what you said.
Side effects of oxygen, yes. Why we need so desperately antioxidants?
Antioxidants, is that what you're talking about? Okay. Do you know what the natural design is for the derivement of antioxidants as a human being actually is? Where are we supposed to get our antioxidants from?
Of course, your answer will be different than mine. So
Of course it will, because mine is based on science.
Just for the sake of our conversation, I will try to agree that you know the answer, and there is such a thing as ideal diet. I don't believe, but let's, just for the sake of this conversation, I will. But I want you to confront the reality.
Right. Well, that's what I do every single day as a scientist. That's what we do. We look at reality. We analyze reality. We form hypotheses about what we expect to see, given that if we put a model together of how things work, and then we apply that model to what we actually observe in reality, and we see if those things agree. If they do, then we've got a good model. If they don't, then we've got a bad model. Ryan, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, no, I had a quick question, because I think we can all agree that the, I guess, standard diet that we see like here in America in our school system that is taught is inadequate, to put it very politely.
A human being can eat.
Yeah.
The standard diet is the worst possible diet that a human being can eat.
So that's why it's kind of a double-edged sword, because I do believe there are, quote, more ideal diets.
There are better or worse, for sure.
But actually, one thing I wanted to ask before we moved on to a discussion maybe around like polyphenols and all these antioxidant properties in plants and all these things, maybe more questions that you might have, or more discussion, let's say you have, Nika. But I wanted to ask what both of your thoughts are, and we can start with you, Nika, on the decrease in brain size of the last 10,000 years for human beings, which coincides with the introduction of agriculture. Now, I'm not saying that that's the one and only reason that has happened. Clearly, we've gone through a warming period during those 10,000 years, et cetera. Our lives are very different than they were 10,000 years ago. The way we consume information and all this stuff, like our lives are completely different than as humans. But I would like to know if you have any other thoughts on that point. I know Bart probably does, but I was wondering if you had any points you thought you'd like to make about that at all, because I'm just curious about it myself.
You mean the size? Why the size of human brains?
Have shrunken in 10,000 years.
First of all, thanks to a higher caloric intake, thanks to cooking, thermal, how you say, cooking, fire, yes, fire.
Nika, the question you seem to be answering there is why you think the human brain got bigger. The question that you were asked was, why do you think in the last 10,000 years the human brain has got smaller, coincident with the introduction of agriculture? Did you understand that?
Smaller.
Yes,
it's
correct.
So I haven't heard about it, that it became smaller.
Yes, it's statistically gotten smaller.
Maybe comparing to Neanderthals. I heard that Neanderthals had bigger brains. Is that what you mean?
No.
Neanderthals were not human beings.
It's actually a proven.
Maybe we don't use some functions we used to use before.
Yeah. Nika, do you understand that Neanderthals are a different species? They were not human beings.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about it because, those but I'm waiting for my time because I wanted to read for you a part of interesting article which I wanted to discuss.
Go for it.
Yes, can I? Sorry for you guys. So I also need to explain to you, I don't understand 100% of what you are saying. Maybe I understand 80% and I need to focus what you are saying. Yes?
That's why I was trying to help you out with the last one.
Don't worry about it. Yeah, your English is really, really good. Just go with it.
You're doing fine.
If you've got any struggles, just ask us again and we'll do it again for you.
Yeah,
you're doing fine.
Thanks. Okay, so there is a comparison of modern human, mainly. So we are talking about Homo sapiens to Neanderthals, and it explains. It's about this nitrogen isotope analysis that mainly it was proven that Neanderthals. Their main source of protein were animals. So modern humans may well have had a broader dietary spread than Neanderthals, but we need it is known nonetheless clear that modern humans, in the relatively short period covered by the study, so starting from 40,000 to 27,000 years before Christ, yes, were exhibited a wide range of diets, while the Neanderthals seem to have had the same general dietary adaptation throughout a much longer period of time. Why do we see these dietary differences between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens in Europe? It is tempting to see the difference as being somehow cognitive, in that Neanderthals were unable to alter their subsistence strategies, whereas modern humans were more creative and were able to exploit resources more than the Neanderthals. However, the difference need not be cognitive and instead an increased flexibility. So flexibility was the factor which made Homo sapiens survive, while Neanderthals, who were less flexible, more stuck to their one optimal diet, which were predominantly meat, they extinct. So this was what I wanted to discuss with you mainly, that in my opinion, we are in a similar situation, that it's a matter of our extinction or not, survival or not, whether we become more flexible and more creative, or we are stubbornly persistent and stuck to the same diet. Like I think our food industry sucks. That's my opinion, and I think we should provoke and challenge food industry to be more creative, because we may face huge problems. And I'm afraid that guys like you who are promoting a very narrow diet just based on meat, such guys are doing a very bad job for humanity. So that's my. You stop our progress. That's.
I do agree we should challenge the food industry. I agree with that. But Bart, let's have you.
Yeah, no, my response is along similar lines, and it is absolutely, I agree with you. The food industry is absolutely criminal, absolutely abhorrent. The food industry is, at its root, responsible for almost all the woes of Western society in terms of our health challenges, because it is the food industry which funds the nutrition education industry, education in inverted speech marks. It is the food industry who are the devil incarnate with regard to human health and well-being. Secondly, I will agree absolutely with your other point that one of the factors, if not the most important factor, that has led human beings to be the predominant species on this planet in terms of at the absolute top of the food chain, at the absolute top of everything pretty much on the planet, is our adaptability, is our ability to adapt to change and to survive or subsist when we required it. Yes, we absolutely did outmaneuver the Neanderthals. Yes, we did probably kill the Neanderthals off. Yes, we probably ate them, to be fair with you. Those that didn't die off of their own accord, a number of them would have been eaten by human beings as well. So yes, I'll absolutely agree with all of that stuff. However, where your logic falls over is that what you're now doing apparently is conflating adaptability with, therefore, a mixed or varied diet is indicated for human health. That's a completely inappropriate conflation, because, as I said before, there is an ideal diet for human beings. Human beings have evolved over 350,000 years existence on this planet in a specialist niche. Yes, we are adaptable. Yes, we can step outside that niche when we need to survive. Yes, we are able to survive events that other animals are not, because of our intelligence, because of our ability to use language, because of our ability to use tools, because of our opposable thumb, because of our large brain capacity, all of those kind of things. Yes, absolutely. Nonetheless, we are still a specialized species. There is an appropriate and ideal diet for human beings, and it is obligate hypercarnivore. All the logic points that way. All the organ systems point that way. All the biological systems of importance point that way. All the science, the actual science, points that way.
I will skip those arguments because I want to focus on other arguments. And first, I hope you agree that human is able to survive as a vegan, which I am a proof of, for example, and there are, you see, many proofs around. So do you agree that human can survive and can live a healthy, happy life as a vegan?
Okay, the first part of that, the first part
Yes.
before the comma, yes, you can subsist as a vegan, and you can subsist as a vegan for a significant number of years. Yes, the human body is a robust system. Yes, its ability to cope with abuse and not die is incredible. However, the part after the comma, healthy and happy as a vegan, that is not possible long term. That is only possible for a short period of time until the deficiencies inherent in that diet kick in and your health basically becomes desolate. Your
Despite
health will completely abandon you.
Tommy,
could I ask something there, Bart? When you're talking about how the vegan diet obviously declines people's health, what, in your opinion, is the nutrients that they're missing in the diet, and what do you think it is that's making that decline so fast? Because we seem to see that it's around about the 5-year mark that people seem to kind of fall off. Why do you think that is?
And then, of course, Nika, we can hear your rebuttal to that.
Yeah, that's good.
Again, this is an opinion because I was asked for an opinion. It seems to me that the one nutrient that is vast, well, there are a number of nutrients that are definitely demonstrably lacking on a vegan diet. We could talk about B12, we could talk about retinol, we could talk about all sorts of things, but the one macronutrient that is clearly a problem for vegans is the lack of adequate intake of saturated fat. It leads to a thing called the rabbit starvation phenomenon. It leads to vegans wasting away. Their muscle mass wastes away, their bone structure wastes away, their collagen wastes away. They end up looking like walking skeletons within 5 or 6 years, and their health completely deserts them at that point. Basically, the reason for it is human beings are biologically absolutely designed to exist and to thrive primarily on saturated animal fat.
But why do you say that there is no saturated fat in plants? Because if, for example,
I did not say that. Don't put words in my mouth. I didn't say there is no saturated fat in plants. I said there is insufficient.
It's up to you how much you take it. Because if I use on daily basis, I use coconut oil is almost 100% saturated fat. And
absolutely.
You have...
And then if you took in enough saturated fat on coconut oil, then what other nutrients are you going to be lacking if that's the basis of your diet? Because then you're not taking in all the other nutrients that you're going to also get from meat.
Okay, you mentioned vitamin B12, and this is also something I think that maybe it's also that's what I want to discuss, because I said that food industry sucks because, for example, we know that the best source of vitamin B12 is water lentils, which is also the source of one of the best proteins, best high quality proteins in the world. Its digestibility is 0.98, while digestibility of, for example, beef is 0.94. So it has better quality of protein. It has a lot of calcium, iron, everything, and it's the most bioavailable form of because it consists of all forms of vitamin 12, and it is the only source next to bacterial products. So it's the only natural source of vitamin B12. So
I missed what you said it was that you were talking about there at the beginning. Which
it was
I was talking about water lentils. which is the best source of vitamin B12 and also the best quality of protein at the same time, very rich in proteins. And if people were not relied on meat that much, it would force them to be more creative. So I hope if there was
okay. Well, tell you what.
Maybe I would be able to get a meal dish made of water lentils.
Okay, well, why don't you try? Why don't you do an N equals 1 and tell us how that goes in a few years? Why don't you eat enough of the water lentils to get all your protein needs and all your vitamin B12 needs every day and report back to us in 5 years how you're going? Because I'll tell you how you'll be going. Very, very badly. Have a look at what else is in water lentils.
I know there is much oxalates. I know it.
And what else? And what else? Not just oxalates. Heavy metals.
Why heavy metals? If you can have it,
because they're in there. Because the plant absorbs them and stores them.
But to absorb, it must have a source of absorption. But you can grow them at home. It's very easily, you can grow them at home.
Nonetheless, what I'm suggesting to you is if you think you can get sufficient protein and sufficient vitamin B12 from water lentils, why don't you go ahead and do that and report back to us in 5 years how that went for you?
Why? Because there is no such a supply in my country, and this is what I'm angry about. Because if I go to my shop, there is only meat and dairy, and next aisle is chips and beer and chocolates and sweets, cookies, and that's it. What is in our shops, and this is a huge problem. It's a much bigger problem than that people are really aware of, because even currently crises show us that we cannot rely on it, but there is nothing else. And if the day comes when people realize that we cannot, for a very serious reason, we cannot breed animals anymore, it would be a dramatic situation, because people are not used to, we don't have culture of diversity of food. And people are not used to, for example, me, I wish I had a meal. For example, I wish to have a dinner of water lentils, but there is no culture. So I have no idea what to do, how to prepare. Why I cannot go to the shop and buy a burger made of, for example, water lentils or anything, there is no culture. We miss culture. We must start being creative and start creating variety of dishes, because we know only how to make, schnitzel or how to make, scrambled eggs. People have, for example, even me, I am a vegan, but there are 20,000 edible plants on the planet, but 90% of supply is made by only 20 species, and yet I don't know how to make a dinner of many of them. So I buy a vegetable and I don't know how to prepare, because there is no.
I'm really surprised, Nika, that you're suggesting that there's no culture out there for veganism and for vegan food preparation and for vegan options such that they are. I think there's a massive amount of information out there. You just do a search on YouTube and you will find channel after channel, video after video, page after page of people telling you all about how to do vegan and how to do it right.
Recipes for people who are free, don't work, for people who don't work, who just have time or who are passionate about cooking. How about busy people? That's one of the
problems with the vegan diet, isn't it?
I think
one of the problems with it. It's not realistic.
I wish there was dishes in the shop. For example, everybody has. I'm working. I don't have so much.
That's a market forces driven thing, isn't it? Probably the reason that there isn't a whole bunch of ready-made things like that available is because there isn't a market for it. I wonder why. I'll tell you why. It's because 84% of people who ever start being vegan quit.
Yeah, exactly.
They do that within 5 years, and 90% of those people, and 90% of those people cite catastrophic health failure as their reason for quitting. That is a dying ideology.
Exactly, because there is no reasonable, offer.
Here's my question. I guess this is the one thing that kind of stumps me around certain aspects of veganism, and it's mostly I'm not a complex dude. I don't need to have recipes to make things. Cooking is kind of whatever to me. I enjoy it, but I don't need to make a display of things, and I just like put food in a pan and that's like basically all I need, right?
Exactly.
So,
So we're
I
not going to
guess,
see Ryan challenging Gordon Ramsay anytime soon, that's for sure.
hey, I love Gordon Ramsay. That man is hilarious. But anyway, but I guess my question is, to me, it's all about going back to evolutionary based eating. And when you were like 10,000 years ago, beyond that, you didn't have recipes for stuff. You just kind of ate, right? So I guess my question is, I feel like vegan, and it's not just like vegans, it's many different philosophies. They make it too complex. Like, it's not a complex
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
They
Exactly.
do that, Ryan, so that they can tell you did it wrong when you fail. And
I'm saying, if it was that hard, how did we get this far?
Exactly, because the food industry sucks. That's what I'm saying. We don't have a reasonable offer of, full in, rich in nutrients, healthy, food.
It's called meat.
But as developing humans, as humans, coming up, we didn't have stores. We hunt, we gathered. We didn't have options back then, really, we have way more options now than we did then. So I guess I just don't understand how evolutionarily it makes it a superior way of eating, because it just doesn't make any sense to me as far as that notion goes. Does that make sense? I'm kind of all over the place a little bit in my mind.
This is also what I'm suffering about, because I have time every day. I am providing one good meal to me and my son. We are both vegans, so once a day I cook a meal, dinner, but I'm fine. So aside of that, I will eat some bread, which I know is not optimal, food. But my son is kind of suffering because he wants to eat a lot. So he eats my dinner. Some hours he's hungry and he said, "What should I eat?" He goes to the shop and he's so frustrated, so angry, because there is nothing for him except for cookies because there is no offer. So I fully understand vegans who go back to eating meat, because maybe they don't have their whole days to spend in the kitchen, prepare their dishes, and it's not good, because also we have a very, very poor offer in my country about vegan dishes, and they are not very healthy. They are based, for example, on gluten very often, which many people are trying to avoid. So we don't have healthy dishes. We don't take advantage of all those edible plants, and there is no variety of vegan foods, and we are, I would say, deep in the ass as the humanity because of this. Because the current situation, I don't know, should I say it, should I name it, or better to avoid those words because they are censored by YouTube. What do you think, guys? Should I say the proper name, or what situation I mean?
Oh, you mean the pandemic?
Yeah, this is the word I was trying to avoid. Yes. Okay. So, so there is pandemic, and we are expecting, obviously, the next pandemics coming from meat industry in Poland this year. Aside of this pandemic, we also had bird flu and ASF. So for example, our pig farms already bankrupted. And this is the situation. We should talk about it, but not only.
So maybe Bart, on that point, because that's a lot of stuff. Maybe Bart, you can talk about. Well, you can talk about whatever you want about that, really. Right. But I mainly had the thought around, because the factory farming is a problem. But we could talk about regenerative agriculture, stuff like that, and your thoughts on the whole animal and the C word,
okay,
the C word that we can't say.
Okay, fine. Okay, so first of all, there is not a pandemic occurring on our planet. That is a fallacy. Statistically, it cannot be supported. Evidentially, it cannot be supported. What is going on here is an attempt by the elite, the powers that be, to exert control over the masses and to teach and train us to comply. There is no pandemic. Furthermore, there is no diagnostic test available which can reliably distinguish who is and who is not infected with such a virus. Thirdly, such a virus has not yet been adequately described according to Rivers' postulates. Yes, there is a virus. Yes, it exists. No, it is not any more threatening than the common flu. In fact, it's less so, especially when you consider that the number of flu deaths that have occurred on this planet and being reported since March of 2020 has miraculously and mysteriously become near zero. Along with many other causes of death as well. It's an absolute complete have. So there's that. Secondly, such a virus does not come from the animal industry. There's no evidence for that either. Thirdly, factory farming is bad. I agree. Regenerative farming, properly done on proper and open pasture land, is indicated, is appropriate, is absolutely fine. I think that covers it.
All right. So
I can't.
You are from United States. I hope your observation is different, because unfortunately, in my country, the situation is super dramatic right now.
I totally
people
understand.
People are really dying. People around.
I have family in Europe. I just spoke to my cousins who live in England, and they're like spiking right now as well. So I'm going to keep my opinions on that.
Right, and they're being told they're spiking. That's what's being reported in the media. There is no evidence for it.
Okay,
right.
We have a lot of deaths.
Nika, have you visited the emergency department yourself? Have you gone there? Have you seen what's happening?
So
today. My son today had taken. He was, he was tested today for against COVID because.
That's not what you asked, Nika. I asked you whether you have been to the emergency department yourself and seen people dying all over the place in the hallways.
Yes,
absolute nonsense.
So many family members of my friends have, even on Friday, one family member of my friend died. Like almost every family I'm in contact with, everybody has sick people. We have almost 1 million people sick right now.
I'm sorry about that, but at the end of the day, people die all the time.
So let's shift this conversation a little bit, because this is getting into some weeds that none of us will ever agree on. It's just like a whole nother sect of weeds that is away from the problem. I do think there is an interesting question within that, and that is, in America, I believe it's like 80%, it might be a little more, 80% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy, which plays into all of these current problems that we have going on and making them more extreme than they could be. That's partially due to what we would both agree is a Western style diet.
And even so, statistically, they are not particularly extreme. The death rate from all causes this year is no higher than any other year.
In Poland, yes, 80% higher.
In the world, across the world, everywhere in the world, the reported death rate from all causes is not elevated this year with respect to any other year. In fact, it's behind. Less people have died this year than last.
I hope all our listeners will check statistics by themselves, because European Union statistics show something completely different. Especially in my country,
they don't. No, they don't show that, Nika. No, they don't. I'm sorry, they don't.
So maybe I have some huge problem with my eyes then, because
I will let the audience go and do their research on that themselves.
Yeah, please, guys, check statistics. There are statistics available from European Union.
If I could actually
come on in, Tommy. Are you frozen again?
No.
But but do you deny bird flu as well?
What do you mean deny bird flu?
Because you deny the existence of COVID. So how about
I didn't. No, again, don't put words in my mouth. I did no such thing. COVID does exist. Absolutely it exists. I never said it doesn't exist.
So you said that people are just the testing is wrong, yes? That they are diagnosed as COVID, but this is not true. This is what you're saying, yes?
I'm saying the test that they are using is completely scientifically invalid. It is incapable of determining whether someone is infected with COVID or they are not.
So I have a question then.
It's a fallacy.
I have a question then, to just try to bring it back to the main argument around diet and stuff. for someone that, let's say, catches it, who do you think has a better shot of getting out of it, being vegan or being on a carnivore-based diet?
This is kind of question I would really love to
scope.
avoid. You know why? Because too many people are manipulating with this. I hate this. People are not honest. Somebody wants to advertise, for example, raw diet. So he say, "Oh, I had a horrible cancer. I started eating raw, and now I'm healed, completely healed. Now I don't have this." People are cheating. I prefer people to be honest. If you have the virus, say you have the virus. If you have cancer, please say you have cancer. I would like to, appeal to all people. Please stop cheating health.
What were you saying, Tommy?
I will say as well, on my opinion on it, obviously I lost one of my friends to it. He was extremely fit and healthy.
Oh, yeah.
He was only 39 years old. What actually happened with him is he was working over in Dubai. He came home for his 40th birthday. He took what he thought was the flu, and then the next 2 days later, his lungs collapsed and things like that. It was definitely COVID, so they say. So I think as well, it probably comes down to how healthy you were before you actually caught COVID, but did he have something in the past that they didn't know about? I don't know. So, yeah, I think it's got a lot to do with your health at the time, really.
Yeah, I'm really sorry to hear about that, Tommy. It's a terrible thing when somebody dies for any reason, especially unexpectedly. There is a virus going around. It does kill a small percentage of people that are infected with it, a small percentage. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm not saying nobody is dying at all. I'm saying the death rates around the world are completely normal this year.
He is right about statistically, it is pretty low when you look at like the numbers per people that get infected. It's not like a movie. It's not like the movie. I think it's Contagion.
Yeah,
it's nothing like that. But people do react to it differently based on their predispositions, etc.
Yeah.
May I continue my argument?
Yes.
Okay, because COVID was just an example, but
right. No, exactly. Yeah, I'm with you.
Because I hope you agree that bird flu has a very much higher death rate than COVID, and you know that in Poland we had also bird flu this year. In many places, not only. So we have COVID, or right now we have a very dramatic situation in Poland, and many people dying, but that's not the topic. We had also bird flu, and we also have African swine flu, which devastated our family farms. So we don't have pig family farms almost anymore. Only biggest factory, industrial farms survived because they are richer, they can afford the damage. Now it reached Germany. So this African swine flu is a big problem in Europe. But we had also, bird flu, which is very dangerous for human. And what I want to say, what is my claim, that you guys who are promoting meat are giving away the cheap weapons to every crazy person. Now,
absolute nonsense, complete nonsense.
So, respond to that one, yeah.
Nonsense.
Well, it's just rambling. This we've got completely away from diet here.
Yeah, that is true.
Excuse me. I am speaking. We've been talking about all sorts of different viruses, none of which have anything whatsoever to do with diet. You've been rambling on in an incoherent fashion. I know English is not your first language. That's not the issue here. The logic is incoherent. What is your argument?
My argument is that if that one day we might be, as humanity, we might be forced to stop animal agriculture because it will be a question of human survival. For example, because of pandemic.
So I understand.
Terrorism.
So I understand your main argument. Basically, you're worried about disease from factory farming and stuff like that, right?
I wanted to talk about terrorists.
Yeah, that's what sounds
That-
like.
Oh my God! Now we're going to terrorism.
yeah,
Okay, well,
Exactly.
that's like way out of the realm.
If somebody wants
you know what
to
the,
know
the
that,
first sign of vegan
No, no,
decline is,
listen,
boys?
listen,
The first sign of vegan decline is a complete inability to hold a logical thought pattern.
are
And
you
that's what
able
we're
to
seeing here. This is
listen
just
to?
rambling nonsense.
So yes, I would agree with you that there is an issue with the way we do agriculture, such as monocropping, such as the way we do factory farming. The way we've set up the system is very flawed. I do agree with that.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I do agree that it does allow disease to spread among animals much more easily when they're such in enclosed spaces and are unhealthy. They're generally unhealthy. Like I've seen ducks that are literally force-fed.
It's horrible.
And Tommy, it's horrible. So
Yeah, it is.
that's why I brought up the idea of regenerative farming, because I do believe that is somewhat of a, I don't want to say cure to this issue in a lot of ways, because you even need it with growing plants, because monocropping destroys the soil that you're growing plants on, and everything becomes much more nutritionally insufficient. So how do you solve that? Well, when you have animals graze on these pastures, they help refertilize the soil by the excrement, etc. So it's a system that needs to work within itself. You can't remove part of that and have it one-sided either way, if that makes sense.
Totally.
And there are ways to do regenerative farming. And there are ways to do regenerative farming. It's been written about extensively. So
I think the Alan Savory Institute, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Could I actually interject a little second, right?
Yeah, go for
it. One of our subscribers have actually commented on our YouTube channel, and they're actually asking if I could ask Bart and Veganica a question. It's basically they want to know, can you obviously get Bart and Veganica to talk about the role of fibre in the diet, if they believe it is necessary, and if it's got any benefits around colorectal cancer, or do you believe that this is obviously just false propaganda? And do you believe that diet plays a role in insulin?
Okay, so you want just to go back to moderate topics. I can talk about fiber, but I hope we will face and we will confront the problem of bioweapon, which
I just think we're going to enter a space where we go around in circles and we're going to lose the audience completely in all of these other weeds. So I'm trying to keep it simple for the audience's sake.
Maybe if we do a separate episode where we maybe talk about
separate.
the other side, yeah.
Okay.
If we base this one around the diet and the nutrition at the moment, and then we move on to that in the next one, so we're not kind of losing track here.
Let's do that. So we just stay focused.
Yeah.
Fiber. For me, fiber is life-saving. You know, if I had any problem at all, health problem. Basically, I don't have health problems. I am basically healthy person. But I suffered constipations for most of my life. So I don't know what is the elegant word in English. I will behave not elegant. As a lady, I would say I used to shit once a week.
Well, yeah.
Totally.
What is the elegant word? Please teach me. How should I say?
I think that's pretty accurate.
That's pretty on point.
Pretty accurate.
Yeah, so you don't have any better word. You don't have any better word.
Sadly, that's probably the word I would use.
I moved my bowels once a week. I had a bowel movement.
That's more the
frankly, we appreciate directness here, I think, and just to say, look, I had a shit once a week is absolutely on point.
Yeah.
Okay, so before it was a problem. It was not, actually, it was very, very painful. So sometimes I was even losing my conscience while in toilet. It was so painful. And I think in a longer run, it might have become dangerous for me. Maybe in future I would develop some bowel cancer or something. But fortunately, it disappeared with, this problem disappeared with a vegan diet. So I have some obvious health benefits of increasing amount of fiber, which doesn't mean that the vegan diet is automatically providing me with enough of this. I still, even being on a vegan diet, I still must like calculate, like not all the foods are rich in fiber. For example, if you take rice or there are many things which are not rich. So I still must like think, okay, if one day I don't have much fiber, it's okay, but I still must be careful to provide sufficient amount of fiber. And for me, it's life-saving.
So I'm glad that you've been able to get over that. I'm glad that you found something that has helped you. But I've read recently some studies about fiber, carnivorous diets, vegan diets with fiber and constipation. And Tommy can probably attest to the fact that fiber actually didn't improve any of those things for his gut dialysis and things.
I would say that what I actually know, I don't know a lot about it, but the only study I know that actually exists on fiber, actually when they reduce fiber out the diet, people's constipation actually improved.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to bring up, and I know Bart was going to talk about it at some point. But what are your thoughts on the whole constipation thing too? Because that is a big argument against carnivore eating, or just in general, not eating fiber. It sounds insane when you talk to somebody about it, right?
I know various people. Some people, for example, me, I need a lot of fiber, a really huge amount of fiber. Then I'm fine. But for example, my mom doesn't, and she doesn't have such problems. So I see that people are different, and I know that, for example, if someone has SIBO, it's even maybe dangerous for him. Then he shouldn't. So I know that not everybody is the same even about fiber. Okay, please, Bart. I'm not.
Okay, from a scientific point of view,
excites me so much.
From a scientific point of view, using the actual data that is available, such that it is, the actual empirical evidence, such that it is, I can tell you with absolute surety that the exact amount of fiber required by human beings in their diet is none at all, not 1 gram ever. Basically, as I was saying, there is one and one only study available on this topic. It is the one that the boys have already referred to. It was a smallish sample size, but it is the only study where they remotely well-controlled people in a locked-in metabolic ward situation. And what they found is, across that population of people, there was a progressive improvement in all their constipation and bowel dysfunction symptoms, which was a straight line relationship between that and the amount of fiber that was removed from their diet, to the point where the people who had all the fiber removed from their diets, all of those people experienced a 100% regression of all their bowel dysfunction symptoms. That's the only study we've got. That's the only evidence we've got that's of any value to look at. Now, everybody's got their own anecdotes, and they can say, well, I ate lots of fiber and I feel much better. That's fantastic. You keep doing that. However, you're also saying, I've got clear benefits from my vegan diet so far, which in the first year and a half or so is entirely in line with what we would expect. As I said before, in the first few years of your vegan diet, you will experience some improvement over the standard diet. Absolutely. However, it will not last. Speak to us again when you've been vegan for between 5 to 7 years, and you will be most likely one of those 84% of people who will be coming to us saying, I was wrong. Veganism is not the answer. I am quitting, and the reason I am quitting is because of catastrophic health failure. I'm sorry, but that's where the statistics are leading us. That is where you will be in about 4 or 5 years from now.
I hope to meet you, Guy, in about 4 or 5 years later.
I hope you quit veganism before that, because I really would have you not go through the suffering that you will go through. I would have you not suffer what Tommy suffered. I would have you not suffer what Ryan suffered. I would save you that pain and suffering if I could get inside your brain and make you understand what I understand, and give you the understanding of where it is you've got this so badly wrong, Nika. I would do that in a heartbeat, because I don't want you to suffer, and you will suffer if you continue with your vegan diet. It will destroy your health, and it will be a long road back. So please, you have the opportunity to stop it, and to stop it right now. I would take the opportunity. Okay?
Okay, thank you. I'm not going to fight for fiber.
No, totally understand. I appreciate hearing both of your point of views because I'm just thoroughly fascinated by diet in general, and so it's cool for me to hear two perspectives.
The second point was what role does diet play in insulin? So do you think that the vegan diet obviously improves it, or do you think the carnivore diet improves it? What kind of evidence is out there, and where does people stand on that?
Sorry, I didn't understand you. Were you talking about the insulin?
Correct.
Yeah. What they're actually asking is, what role do you think diet plays in insulin? Do you believe that the plant-based diet improves insulin, or what's your view on that?
Is it a question to me or to Bart?
To you to begin, and then we can shift it
to you
over.
to begin, and then obviously Bart will interject with what his beliefs are on that.
Yeah. First of all, I'm not that much interested in dietitian because, like I said, I haven't had any health issues. So the only problem in my family is my son being autistic. So I only care about psychoactive substances and how things affect psyche and insulin. That's a problem I'm not really too much familiar with because nobody in the family has any,
Veganica, I would like to ask you as well, when you mentioned obviously psychoactive substances, I remember watching one of your videos and you actually said that you believe that animal foods like meat actually have psychoactive substances in them. And you believe that obviously intensifies autism. Could you give us a bit of scope on what you actually think about that?
Yeah, I'm curious. Well, it's fascinating. I was curious.
Yeah, I would like to hear it.
Okay, so of course, if you eat a lot of beef, you're overdosing phenylalanine, which is very similar in about effect is very similar to amphetamine. So my claim is that. But it's not just my claim. Many people on the internet are writing about this, that meat is highly addictive. So people who are craving meat after becoming vegan,
completely unlike sugar, boys. Completely unlike sugar, which is not addictive at all.
Yeah, sugar is also addictive. Don't expect me to fight for sugar.
Yeah,
no, of course.
But hang on, Nika, you're fighting for a diet. The only really important macronutrient in which you can actually access at all is starch, and starch breaks down in the bloodstream to sugar.
Yeah, but slowly, not
No, not at all.
No, fast peak in glucose levels.
No. Now you're going to talk about the GI scale, eh? And you say whole grains break down much more slowly than refined sugar, and you're wrong because it's
therefore
not
you need some
valid.
fiber. If you have some fiber in your diet, then yes.
Fiber has no effect.
I think what I'm curious about is I guess if we're talking about improving mental health, I've seen so many people improve their mental health by going on a carnivore-based diet and them citing it to reduce their depression, etc.
They're also the opposite.
But I'm sure you could say that about any diet, really. So
yeah,
until there's actual like.
What I would say about obviously mental health and diet, I think it's 50% of each, because diet plays a big role, yes, but the other 50% is obviously neural rewiring your thought patterns and things like that as well. So I think it's
environmental.
Diet, there's a lot to look at there. I wouldn't say diet is the be all and end all, if you know what I mean.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you totally. I think your environment and your life experiences play a huge role in your mental health, as well as like genetic predisposition that you already have. So it's like it's a very multifactorial thing. I just think
can I address the original question?
Yeah, go for it.
Which is of the two diets, veganism and carnivory, which one will net you an improvement in your insulin sensitivity across time? The answer is both. Both diets will achieve that over the standard Western or standard American diet.
Yeah.
The worst possible diet you can consume in terms of your insulin sensitivity is the standard diet, and the reason for that is the Randall cycle. There you go. There's the answer.
Yeah,
cool. I didn't expect that from you. I appreciate.
But it's true. That's what I do. I do science, and I talk about what is objectively true.
May I suggest you something, guys? Because you start a very important and, in fact, very exciting topic, like the effect on psyche. I think many people might be interested in it, and I think it's not a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
sure.
That's what we talk about on here.
Debate. Nobody will listen to this. We can make another debate. Just we should decide on a topic, because start such a topic in the end.
Let us know, and we'll set it up.
Yeah, love to.
I think we should finish this for today. There are already several topics.
Yeah, you want to kind of ring us out, Tommy?
Yeah, if anybody want to close on anything.
How about let's do some like just final thought wrap up stuff. And Nika, you can kind of give your final thoughts. Bart, you can give your final thoughts, and then we'll wrap it up. And we'll do something again sometime. We can do one totally focused on mental health. I think that would be very interesting. I'm very fascinated in that. Anything that I can learn would be great. So yeah, Nika, go ahead and take us out.
So what I wanted to suggest, and what I was the only vegan here in this discussion today, so I didn't even mean to discuss the dietitian's problems with somebody who is dietitian and I'm not. I just wanted to suggest humanity to be to become more flexible, to demand more from food industry, to push the progress. Our progress and flexibility and readiness for the situation when one day we might have no opportunity for some other objective reasons, some bigger issues bigger problems than diet itself, that one day we might not be allowed to breed animals, and we are not ready as humanity. We may face huge problems, and so I want to push progress and us to expect more from food industry. That's what was my
I'm all for progress. I'm all for progress, because humanity is going to be screwed for several different things.
I think it would. I was just going to say, I think it would be good to cover in the next one as well. Speaking to Veganica, obviously in my last video, she's really into animal welfareism as well. And I think it's quite a different stance than most vegans actually have, because a lot of vegans just totally dismiss animal welfareism. So maybe if we talk a little bit about that in the next one as well, I think that'd be good to touch upon.
I would love that. Anyway, so Bart, take us away.
Yeah, look, I'm also very keen on a future discussion. This is not a debate. We shouldn't call it a debate. This is a discussion. A debate is a controlled situation with rules.
Debate's the trigger word. It's the trigger word.
Exactly. So what we're doing here is having a discussion, and I would be very interested in a future discussion surrounding mental health as well. I myself suffered vastly throughout the majority of my life from very serious mental health issues. It's one of those things, Veganica, that you would have found out about me had you done the research before this discussion. And I am now almost in complete remission in terms of my mental health after 4 years eating a reasonably strictly carnivore diet. I'm not perfect by any stretch. I have transgressed. I've had the odd bottle of beer and the odd slice of pizza, I don't mind telling you, but largely I've been eating carnivore for 4 years, and my mental health is now the best it has ever been. Along with many other aspects of my health, which again, those that want to do the research into me will see that there's a laundry list of health complaints that I had, which are now in a complete or almost complete remission, coincident with my period as a carnivore eater. People are also directed to look at the actual science, the actual empirical facts around what it is that human beings should eat, whether or not there is an ideal diet for human beings. The answer is yes, there is. And I think the best place that people should go for information about that is my fine, actually science-based YouTube channel, where over many hours I cover the myriad reasons that underpin the assertions that I'm just throwing out here in a discussion sort of sense. So there you go. That's where people can find. That's where people can find it. There.
I appreciate you both coming on. I appreciate you sharing your perspectives. And yes, it was a discussion. Got kind of, I don't know if it got really heated per se, but it got really.
Oh, not really. Yeah, you should have seen some of my other passion is what we had.
But and I love that. And I love the fact that you can both come on and talk about what you truly believe in. I think that's what we really need more of, is open decorum for that type of discussion. If we are to, like you say, Nika, make progress. And I'd love to talk to you, Nika, on animal welfare. I think that's a really important discussion as well. So I'd love to have you back on. I'd love to have you both.
All for animal welfare.
So
yes, we can have another discussion another time.
You will be able to find both of their links down in the description below, their information.
Absolutely,
Thank you guys again, and we'll see you in the next one.